I still remember the sound that echoed through the quiet neighborhood that bright Saturday morning. It wasn't thunder or a passing truck. It was the sharp crack of old wooden boards giving way beneath someone who had already carried far too much pain. When I rushed outside, I saw my widowed neighbor standing on the broken porch of her small white house, trying to keep her balance while pretending everything was fine. The porch had finally collapsed after years of neglect, but the sadness in her eyes told a much deeper story than broken wood ever could. At that moment, I had no idea that picking up a hammer would begin changing two lonely lives forever. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of helping others without expecting anything in return, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Kindness Paradise. Your support helps these heartfelt stories reach more people around the world. My name is Gideon, a 38-year-old carpenter who had spent most of his adult life rebuilding homes after storms. Ironically, while I knew how to repair cracked foundations and broken roofs, I had never truly repaired the broken places inside my own heart. 3 years earlier, my marriage had ended quietly, leaving me with nothing except a modest workshop, an aging pickup truck, and a belief that sometimes life simply moved on without giving people another chance. My new neighborhood was peaceful, filled with old maple trees and flower gardens glowing under the warm daytime sun. Yet one house always seemed strangely silent. It belonged to my neighbor, Maris, a 42-year-old widow who had lost her husband to a sudden illness 4 years before. She lived alone, kept her lawn neat, smiled politely at everyone, but never stayed outside long enough to have real conversations. After seeing the broken porch, I couldn't simply walk away. I offered to repair it without charging a single dollar. She resisted at first, insisting she would eventually hire someone, although everyone could see she was struggling financially. Her roof needed attention, her fence leaned sideways, and the porch looked as tired as the grief she carried every day. I spent the afternoon measuring beams, replacing rotten boards, tightening railings, and giving the porch the strength it had lost over many years. The bright blue sky stretched endlessly overhead while birds sang from nearby trees, making the day feel strangely peaceful despite the heavy emotions hidden beneath every smile. As the final board was secured, Maris stepped carefully onto the new porch. For the first time, genuine relief appeared across her face. She laughed softly, the kind of laugh that sounded unfamiliar, as though happiness had forgotten the way to her voice. Looking at the finished work, she jokingly admitted that she wished someone like me had been her husband. She immediately covered her mouth with embarrassment, explaining she had only meant that her late husband had never been good with repairs. I smiled politely, but those unexpected words lingered in my thoughts long after I returned home. They were not romantic. They were simply the words of someone exhausted from carrying every burden alone. The following weeks brought small opportunities to help each other. I trimmed branches hanging over her roof before another storm could damage the house. She repaid the favor by bringing homemade bread and fresh vegetable soup to my workshop. Soon our conversations became longer. We spoke about ordinary things like gardening, old movies, neighborhood children riding bicycles, and the changing seasons. Gradually, those ordinary conversations began healing extraordinary loneliness neither of us had admitted existed. Still, the greatest obstacle wasn't broken wood or financial hardship. It was fear. Maris felt guilty whenever she smiled too much, believing happiness somehow dishonored the memory of her late husband. I carried my own invisible scars, convinced that trusting someone again would only end with another goodbye. Every step forward seemed followed by 2 careful steps backward. Sometimes entire days passed without either of us knocking on the other's door, simply because neither wanted to misunderstand the growing friendship. One afternoon, while helping repaint her front fence under the bright afternoon sunshine, I noticed an old photograph hanging near the window inside her living room. It showed her family years earlier, laughing together during a summer picnic. The joy captured in that picture seemed frozen in time, untouched by the heartbreak that followed. Instead of feeling jealous of the life she had once shared, I found myself respecting it. Love that genuine never truly disappears. It simply changes its place inside the heart. As autumn approached, the neighborhood organized a daytime community fair to raise money for elderly residents needing home repairs. I volunteered my carpentry skills, building benches and repairing picnic tables. To my surprise, Maris volunteered beside me, serving meals and organizing donations. People who had barely seen her leave the house during previous years were amazed by her warmth. Children laughed around her. Elderly neighbors thanked her. For the first time in years, she wasn't surviving each day. She was living it. Watching her confidence return reminded me that kindness often repairs far more than what our hands can touch. A repaired porch had quietly become repaired hope. Neighbors began helping one another more often. Someone fixed an elderly veteran's mailbox. Another family repainted a struggling widow's fence. Compassion spread across our little street like sunlight breaking through morning clouds. Months later, during another clear daytime afternoon, Maris invited several neighbors for coffee on the very porch we had rebuilt together. It was filled with laughter, flowers, and conversations that drifted gently through the air. Looking around, she admitted that for the first time since losing her husband, her home no longer felt empty. It finally felt alive again. Those words meant more to me than any paycheck I had ever earned because they reminded me that sometimes the greatest gift isn't solving someone's problems. It's helping them believe tomorrow can still hold joy. Our friendship slowly grew into something deeper, not because either of us searched for love, but because kindness had quietly built trust one simple act at a time. There was no dramatic proposal, no grand declaration beneath fireworks, only two wounded hearts discovering that healing rarely arrives all at once. It comes through shared mornings, honest conversations, patient understanding, and small acts of compassion repeated every single day. If this story has touched your heart so far, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who may need encouragement today, and subscribe to Kindness Paradise. Your support allows more stories of hope, healing, and second chances to reach people everywhere. Special request, please comment below with the words, "Kindness builds homes," if you believe one small act of kindness can completely change someone's life. As I looked at that once broken porch glowing beneath the gentle afternoon sun, I realized it had never really been about replacing old boards. It had been about rebuilding faith where grief had settled, restoring hope where loneliness had taken root, and proving that the strongest homes are not built from wood and nails alone. They are built from compassion, patience, forgiveness, and people willing to show up when someone else is carrying more than they can bear. Sometimes the smallest gesture becomes the beginning of a brand new life, reminding us all that even after heartbreaking loss, kindness can still open the door to tomorrow.